All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Friday, July 2nd, 2021. And of course, this afternoon, we remain focused on what is now Hurricane Elsa moving through the Windward Islands and into the Eastern Caribbean. Elsa was upgraded to a hurricane this morning as she moved through. She produced wind gusts around 80 to 85 miles an hour in Barbados and St. Lucia. And the Hurricane Center went ahead and made the call that she is the hurricane. She's the first hurricane of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season. She's also one of the furthest east forming hurricanes by this point in the calendar year, so definitely in some historical territory with this one, and she is definitely a concern for the U.S. East Coast. Florida, the most of a concern right now, but definitely a concern for the central Gulf Coast all the way to the Carolinas also, as her track and future still remain somewhat uncertain as she moves to the Caribbean and up into the Western Caribbean later in the week. All right, guys, let's go ahead and look at National Hurricane Center's 2 p.m. advisory. Maximum sustained winds now up to 85 miles an hour. It's a healthy Category 1 hurricane now. She is still racing off to the west northwest at 29 miles an hour. A central pressure 991 millibars. Hurricane warnings are in effect for the southern coast of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, with watches for most of the rest of the island, as well as hurricane watches for Jamaica. We have tropical storm watches for the Cayman Islands and parts of the northern Dominican Republic, and the watches and warnings for the Windward Islands, which she's moving through, should be discontinued shortly as weather conditions should be rapidly improving as she races away at over 20 something miles an hour. So the Hurricane Center's track really hasn't changed a whole lot. The Hurricane Center does not like to make big adjustments in their tracks and forecasts. They did go ahead and upgrade to a hurricane, obviously on the intensity. Right now, they're not really forecasting a big intensity jump, but this was the 11 a.m. cone intensity was written before she, was upgraded. So uh, we'll see in the 5 p.m. forecast package, how much more they want to bump her intensity up. But right now, holding as a Category 1 hurricane, most likely, I think that definitely she could continue to strengthen throughout the afternoon. There's not a lot really slowing her down right now. The things that are inhibiting her, she seems to be able to overcome to some degree. So I don't think this is going to explode into some monster 4 or 5 or something. A steady strengthening doesn't seem out of the question, but we'll be watching carefully if any kind of dry air or disruptions can get in there and mess with her. Then go and look at the satellite imagery here this afternoon, and it's she's not looking all that bad. Not looking all that bad at all. You see these little hot towers in here, these little blacks and whites popping up like little popcorn balls. Those have been going on since last night, indicating real deep convection in the center of the storm. For now, it does not appear dry air is bothering the storm. There's definitely not a lot of wind shears. You see the cirrus shield expanding out ahead of it, and there are some banding features in the storm in the mid to upper levels here. Not super great banding, and definitely not quite hasn't really built an eye yet, but it's not far from it. There's probably a partial eye wall here in the last couple frames. There's probably a partial eye wall feature right here, I would imagine, just to the east of this deep convection, and she's probably going to try to wrap that around through the afternoon. Hurricane Hunter aircraft this afternoon investigating the storm. They found lower pressure, and they have found a nice swath of hurricane force winds on the north side. Again, the storm is moving at almost 30 miles an hour to the west, so winds on the north side of the storm will get a 20 to 30 mile an hour bump, and then winds on the south side are much lighter in comparison. It's probably a low grade tropical storm on this side, and it's a hurricane on this side. So that really blistering forward speed does sort of play into the idea here. Let's go ahead and look at the GFS as far as the computer model guidance. So we're going to use the GFS to illustrate the large scale weather pattern that's going to guide her, but I want to caution and give a note right now. Our computer models did not do well this morning. Okay, they got some what looked like combatant information. That first Hurricane Hunter pass kind of misinterpreted the storm a little bit. It's kind of hard to say what exactly happened, but our computer models ingested some of that information. Without going too much into detail, computer models have a valid time. So when you see a model, this is the 12Z GFS. Okay, this is Zulu time. You just take 4 hours off for Eastern time. Okay, it's international dateline time. So 7 a.m. This is when the run is valid for. But that's like a newspaper. If you have to make your newspaper and print it by say 8 a.m., you have a news cutoff time, right? Like you can't print stuff that happens at 7:55 if your newspaper is already printed. Computer models, they kind of work the same way. They have to have an information cutoff. They did the best of what they had, and our afternoon models have underrepresented Elsa's strength. I'll just real quick switch over to the base sea level pressure model, the GFS this afternoon. only thinks that Elsa will be at 1,000 millibars, which is that central pressure. The lower this number is, the stronger the storm is. And 1,000 millibars is what the GFS thinks she'll be in a few hours. But right now, she's already at a drop zone pressure of 993. To actually correct that, it's probably about a 991 millibar central pressure. The Hurricane Center has at 2 p.m. So the model is already off significantly on her intensity. So a misrepresentation of the current intensity means the model may not be accurately seeing the storm and the environment around her. So we're going to go with the GFS because it has been consistent in its track. It's just not seeing the storm correctly. What will happen this evening is the new models will run with more Hurricane Hunter information. Not only will they fly the storm itself, they will also send an upper level jet to fly all ahead of the storm, and it'll sample all this information and give the model a much better depiction of, say, how strong this high pressure is. What extent did the high pressure go to? Is it here? Is it actually nosed here? Is it actually nosed here? Because those slight deviations in the edge of this high pressure may mean the difference in her gaining enough latitude to hit Hispaniola and significantly be disrupted, or a stronger high pressure may push her further south in towards the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So those are things that the Hurricane Hunter aircraft will help us, get a better picture of tonight, and then hopefully the computer models run and we get a little better information. But let's just real quick go through the general track forecast philosophy here. Again, Elsa moving into the Eastern Caribbean this evening on the computer model. High pressure continues to control her forward speed, but she's entering kind of a break in the ridge. You have this upper level trough that's dug in the eastern U.S. It's broke down. This high pressure would normally just extend all the way through Florida, but right now it's being eroded and kind of cut off here at about the Bahamas. So you have this opening in the high pressure here that Elsa is moving towards. Hurricanes just move towards areas of weakness and lower pressure. They just kind of move around highs and move towards lows. So that's what she's doing as you go through the day tomorrow. By tomorrow, again, you still have this weakness over the central western sort of Caribbean, with high pressure kind of breaking down and flattening out some as this ridge erodes the high, or the trough erodes the high here. So Elsa expected to slow down some. It kind of has a fork in the road. Some of the flow goes this way, some of the flow goes back off to the west. So it's going to kind of be a crapshoot of what exactly path she wants to take. Hurricane Center for now just kind of splits the middle of the two flows and goes right into, south of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, towards Cuba. That's very possible. And on the GFS model anyway, she kind of continues to just split the middle here, and then gets near Cuba as we go into late Sunday into early Monday morning, and crosses Cuba late on Monday, and then begins to recurve as upper level winds begin to push her back off to the east. And then this is where you kind of see that recurve happen on this run. The GFS, she still is a weaker storm. This run of the model has the same track but a weaker storm. If I go back to the 6Z run, you see a much stronger storm that moves up through Florida and recurves around the Big Bend and kind of goes to the southeast and then kicks off out to sea. That's just one possibility. Okay, the European model still shows plenty of solutions where the European ensembles still have a lot of solutions that have the storm off to the east of Florida, which would be the best news. But I'd also say the European model has consistently under forecast the storm from the start. So I am rolling with the much more consistent and a little bit better GFS. But for now, neither model is really caught up with her intensity. And that's kind of scary because this is the H word. This is normally a bit of a more aggressive model with intensification. I have to take the H-Werf all the way out to midday or like mid-morning tomorrow, about 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, to get her current pressure. So if this intensification rate's the same, but she's starting that much lower, H-Werf shows she could be a very healthy hurricane by this time tomorrow. So we're gonna have to hope for some kind of dry air, something to weaken her a little bit. And really, the worst case scenario is kind of what the Hurricane Center shows. South of Cuba, there is a very deep warm water patch. The water in the whole Caribbean is warm. It's 28, 29 Celsius, mid to upper 80s Fahrenheit. It's plenty warm enough for the storm. But this deep warm water is really what fuels these storms. They can catch that warm water that's very, very deep below the surface of the ocean. That's where they really can intensify. And if Elsa hits this patch here about the same time as the upper level winds become more favorable, as you can see right now, Elsa still got this kind of streak of stronger upper level winds. This is 200 millibar winds. This is way up in the atmosphere. But you can see these upper level winds are still kind of pushing her along and kind of helping disrupt the vortex a little bit. But as we go into Sunday into Monday, right when she's kind of over this warmer patch of water, you also have this beautiful anticyclonic outflow aloft, which you put these two things together and she significantly misses land. That's a recipe for a pretty healthy storm, I'd say. So don't like to see that, but again, the Caribbean is historically not the most hospitable place this time of year, so maybe there'll be just enough dry air and shear to keep her in check. There is some dry air to her north right now in the Saharan layer. There's a nice layer of deep, dry air, but it's kind of riding north of her. It's not really getting wrapped up into the storm, so unless that does, we'll see. But I would say this afternoon, this evening, guys. Really for Florida, it's too early for direct impacts. If you just take the GFS track, and I back this up to the model run before where it was a more intense storm to show you the upper end of the outcome, a decently strong hurricane coming across Cuba and landfalling and recurving in the Big Bend. You're talking about early estimates rainfall totals of 6 to 10 inches of rain, and this can shift south or north depending on the actual track. So don't pay attention too much to where these numbers are. Just pay attention to what the numbers are, which is 6 to 10 inches of rain. Very possible. It should be moving at a decent clip, but still, that's a lot of rain. And this is the estimated wind speeds. You're talking about wind gusts to or above hurricane force along where she comes ashore, and then tropical storm force winds well inland. And again, you could just as easily take this swath and shift it to somewhere like this if she recurves a little sooner and puts 60, 70 mile an hour winds, say in North Florida, or further to the west. Just depends where the track actually winds up. But this kind of gives you a rough idea of some of the numbers we could be seeing. Also, I would say if she takes any track that is to the east or to the eastern Gulf of Mexico, this west coast of Florida will see a significant storm surge with this thing. And if she actually comes ashore somewhere, say Tampa or something, wind surge will be a pretty big problem. So that is a very close thing to watch over the next couple of days. But honestly, it is just a little too early to really determine. There's still a lot of potential solutions on the table. You can see our models still show some landfalls all the way off to the west towards the Panhandle and all the way to the east offshore Florida completely. And also for our friends in the Carolinas, don't sleep on this one either, because if she does turn a little bit earlier and kind of crosses eastern Cuba, you may catch that recurve before she can get back out to sea. Um, but yeah, guys, basically, long story short, she's strengthening. She's going to probably continue to do so throughout the afternoon and evening hours. She's going to be a healthy hurricane tomorrow. She passes by Hispaniola in Jamaica. If she actually hits one of those islands directly, she may be significantly weaker. If she manages to miss both the islands and gets south of Cuba in that warm water, she could definitely be a significant hurricane. And potential impacts for Florida, the longer she goes south and west, the more likely Florida's getting something directly. It's just too early to say who or what exactly, but the forecast will fall quickly into place. I'm telling you, from tonight to like tomorrow afternoon, there should be some lot higher forecast confidence. So be paying attention. It's a long weekend. You'll be out partying, but please keep an eye on it and be ready to act, because this thing Tuesday, Wednesday next week could be right on our doorstep, and you don't want to be scrambling last minute because you weren't paying attention over the weekend. So we'll have another video tonight. We'll check in on a quick update and we'll see what's going on. But that's your update for today. As always, thanks for watching and have a good one.